7,800 views. That is what happened the last time this channel put Peterbilt and Freightliner in the same conversation. 7,800 views and 182 likes from drivers, fleet managers, and owner-operators who came to this channel because they wanted someone to finally say the thing that dealerships and manufacturers and trucking magazines will not say directly, that Peterbilt is better. And that the #1 selling truck in North America is not the same thing as the best truck in North America. That video compared the brands, the philosophies, the legacies, and it settled something important for the people who watched it. But there is a question that video did not answer. A specific question from drivers who are writing checks right now in 2026. Not a philosophy question, a money question, a $200,000 question that thousands of people are asking every month and that nobody has answered with the complete honest picture that the decision actually requires. The question is this: the Peterbilt 389 is gone. The truck that defined classic long-hood American trucking for 17 years and 110,000 builds has been replaced by something new, something called the 589. And the question every serious truck buyer is asking, the one that Peterbilt's dealers answer with brand loyalty and Freightliner's dealers answer with market share statistics, is whether the 589 is good enough to justify the premium over the truck that sells 40% of the North American Class 8 market. Is the Peterbilt 589 worth more money than the Freightliner Cascadia? Not in the abstract, not philosophically. In the specific financial reality of an owner-operator or fleet manager spending between $190,000 and $230,000 on a truck that is going to carry their livelihood for the next 5 to 7 years. That is the question, and this video is the honest answer. Let us start with what the Peterbilt 589 actually is, because the most important thing to understand about this truck, the thing that changes how you evaluate every specification comparison that follows, is what Peterbilt was trying to do when they built it, and what they were trying to do is more complicated and more interesting than the marketing version of the story. The Peterbilt 389 ended production after 17 years, 110,000 trucks. A machine that owner-operators bought with the same emotional conviction that other people reserve for buying a house or starting a family. The 389 was not just a truck, it was an identity, a statement about what kind of operator you were and what you believed trucking was supposed to mean. And when Peterbilt announced it was ending production when the last 389 rolled off the line in Denton, Texas, the reaction in the trucking community was not just disappointment, it was grief. The 589 had to answer for that grief. It had to stand in front of 110,389 owners and their fans and their successors and say, I am worthy of what came before me. I carry the heritage. I am not a compromise. I am not an aerodynamic truck wearing a chrome costume. I am the real thing. And here is what Peterbilt actually built when they tried to answer that challenge. The 589 starts at $209,000. It goes to $231,500 fully loaded. It carries the same pod headlights as the 389, the same aluminum fuel tanks, the same long hood silhouette that has defined Peterbilt's identity since the 379 first appeared on American highways. But underneath that silhouette, inside the cab, inside the engine bay, inside the technology architecture, the 589 is not a 389 with updated lighting. It is a completely different machine that chose to honor its predecessor's appearance while replacing almost everything that appearance was attached to. The cab is new construction. The interior has been completely redesigned with modern driver ergonomics, advanced infotainment integration, and a sleeper configuration that brings the 589 into genuine competition with the best modern long-haul sleepers in the Class 8 market. The PACCAR MX-13 engine up to 605 horsepower and 2,050 pound-feet of torque gives the 589 a power ceiling that the 389 never reached. And the aerodynamic treatments that Peterbilt engineered into the 589's body panels, the subtle hood geometry, the integrated side fairing connections, the roof treatment give a truck that looks like a classic the fuel economy numbers of a modern aerodynamic platform. That combination classic exterior identity with modern mechanical capability is what the 589 is. And the question this video answers is whether that combination justifies the price premium over the truck that is currently eating 40% of its market. Now, let us talk about the price. Because the price comparison between the 589 and the Cascadia is the number that stops most conversations before they get to the substance, and that stopping is the mistake that is costing buyers real money. The Freightliner Cascadia in standard long-haul configuration with the DD15 engine sits between $155,000 and $178,000, depending on spec. The Peterbilt 589 starts at $209,000 and goes to $231,500 fully loaded. The gap between a standard Cascadia and a standard 589 is between $31,000 and $54,000 in favor of the Freightliner. That number is real, and it deserves to be in every financial model that evaluates this decision. For a large fleet buying 20 or 50 trucks that gap compounding across the FIA, the entire purchase order is a capital allocation decision that requires serious justification. For an individual owner-operator financing, at current rates, that gap is a monthly payment difference. That shows up in cash flow every single month for the length of the loan. But here is the framing error that most people make when they see that number. They treat the purchase price gap as the cost of choosing the Peterbilt. It is not. The purchase price gap is the upfront investment that either pays back or does not pay back over the ownership cycle, depending on what the 589 delivers in the categories that the purchase price does not capture. And there are categories in this comparison where the 589 delivers returns that the Cascadia cannot match, returns that are large enough and consistent enough that for the right operator, the $54,000 premium at purchase becomes a net financial advantage by the time the truck is sold. Let us go through those categories honestly. Now let us talk about fuel economy, because this is where the 589 versus Cascadia comparison produces a result that almost nobody who has not done the specific research on the 589 is expecting. The Freightliner Cascadia with the DD15 posts real-world fuel economy between 7.4 and 7.8 miles per gallon under long-haul conditions. This is a genuine achievement. Freightliner has invested heavily in aerodynamic optimization across successive Cascadia generations, and the DD15's fuel efficiency calibration reflects years of refinement. The Cascadia is not slow on fuel economy. It is competitive by every reasonable standard. The Peterbilt 589 with the PACCAR MX-13 and its aerodynamic package posts real-world fuel economy between 7.2 and 7.6 miles per gallon in standard configuration. That number puts it within the Cascadia's range, slightly behind at the low end, essentially equivalent in optimized conditions. But the 589 is available with the full EPIQ aerodynamic package. And this is where the conversation changes completely for buyers who are willing to do the homework on what the EPIQ actually delivers. The EPIQ package on the 589: integrated roof fairing, full chassis skirts, aerodynamic bumper, door and hood seals, rear wheel covers, lifts the 589's real-world fuel economy into a range that competes with, and in tested conditions, exceeds the Cascadia's best numbers. The EP-VUS WUS numbers. The EP-VUS IQ Specs 589 is not a classic truck that sacrifices fuel economy for aesthetics. It is a truck that delivers both the visual identity of American trucking heritage and fuel economy numbers of a modern aerodynamic platform in a combination that the Cascadia, which chose the modern path completely, cannot offer. For an owner-operator who runs consistent long-haul highway routes where the EPIQ system operates as designed, that combination is the entire financial justification for the 589's premium price in a single specification. Now let us talk about the engine, because the powertrain comparison between the DD15 and the MX-13 is where the Cascadia's most loyal operators make their most compelling argument, and where the honest response to that argument requires acknowledging both its strength and its limits. The Detroit DD15 is the most universally serviced engine in the Class 8 market. Over 700 Freightliner dealer locations, independent shops across North America that know the DD15 by institutional memory accumulated across millions of service events. Parts availability that has been optimized over decades to put the right component in the right location at the right time. And an integrated powertrain architecture, the DD15 paired with the DT12, automated transmission, and Detroit axles, all calibrated together by the same engineering team that produces a driving experience and a shift behavior that drivers who have run it for serious miles describe as the most seamlessly integrated powertrain currently available in a production Class 8 truck. That integration is real. The DD15 does not just work, it works in a specific way that feels different from a powertrain assembled from components designed by separate engineering teams. and for fleet operators whose service model is built around a single standardized powertrain, that every technician in their network knows completely the DD15 is not just an engine choice, it is an operational infrastructure decision. The PACCAR MX-13 in the 589 produces up to 605 horsepower, 100 more than the DD15's peak, up to 2,050 pound-feet of torque, in mountain routes, in heavy haul applications, in the specific conditions where raw power determines whether you make the grade on schedule or fall behind it. The MX-13's power advantage over the DD15 is a real operational variable that experienced operators in demanding terrain feel every single day. But the MX-13 is not the DD15 in terms of service coverage universality. Outside of PACCAR dealer territory in the corners of the map, where Freightliner has a dealer in Kenworth or Peterbilt, does not, the MX-13 requires either a longer tow to the nearest qualified shop or a wait for mobile service that the DD15 would not require. For an owner-operator whose routes keep them in PACCAR-dense territory, the Midwest, the Northeast corridors, the primary California lanes, this concern is minimal. For an operator running truly irregular routes across the full continental map, it is worth modeling honestly. The 589 buyer who specifies the Cummins X15 option available at peak power with access to the broadest independent service network in North America solves the service coverage question almost completely. A589 with the Cummins X15 gives you the classic Peterbilt exterior, the premium interior, the EPIQ fuel economy, and Cummins service coverage that rivals the DD15's network density across the full map. That combination is the 589's most compelling operational specification for the owner-operator who wants the truck without the service coverage trade-off. Now let us talk about the interior, because this is where the comparison between the 589 and the Cascadia reveals the most fundamental difference in what each truck was built to be, and where the financial argument for the 589's premium price is most clearly grounded in something that driver satisfaction surveys have been documenting consistently. The Peterbilt 589's interior is not the 389's interior with upgraded screens. It is a new interior that carries the 389's design language into a modern ergonomic and technological context without apologizing for either the heritage or the upgrade. The materials throughout the 589's cab are premium in a way that is immediately apparent and that accumulates into a meaningful difference in the quality of the environment over extended operation. The seat, the surfaces your hands touch every day, the sound insulation in the walls and ceiling, the way the cab feels at hour 10 of a long-haul day compared to hour 1. These are not brochure specifications. They are the things that drivers who have run the 589 for serious miles talk about when they describe what the truck is actually like to live in. The 589 Ultra Loft Sleeper is the most capable residential sleeping environment that Peterbilt has ever put in a production truck. This is not a marketing statement. It is a description of what Peterbilt delivered when they built the 589 Sleeper, with the understanding that modern owner-operators were comparing their living environment not just to other trucks, but to the quality of life standard they expected from any professional working environment: the bunk width, the headroom, the storage architecture, the climate management system that maintains sleeping temperature independently of the main cab HVAC. These are details that show up as driver fatigue numbers and retention statistics in fleet environments where the data is actually tracked. The Freightliner Cascadia's interior is functional, well-organized, and adequate. That sentence is not a dismissal. Functional, well-organized, and adequate describes a cab that has been thoughtfully engineered to serve the practical requirements of long-haul operation without wasted space or poorly considered layout. The Evolution Sleeper gives you room. The storage is logical. The seat is comfortable in the objective sense that a properly designed ergonomic seat is comfortable. But the Cascadia's interior has a character that experienced drivers who have run both trucks describe with a consistency that has stopped being coincidental and started being data. It feels like a tool. The 589 feels like a home. And in an industry where the difference between a driver who stays and a driver who leaves is often the difference between feeling like a professional in a premium work environment and feeling like an operator in a cost-optimized cab, that distinction has a financial value that shows up in fleet retention models, whether or not it ever appears in a specification comparison. Now let us talk about the classic truck community, because this is the dimension of the 589 versus Cascadia comparison that no specification analysis can fully capture, and that ultimately explains why a significant percentage of the people making this decision in 2026 are not making it purely on financial grounds. The 389 created a community, not a customer base. A community. Drivers who bought 389s did not just own a truck. They owned a relationship with a design language, a heritage, a visual identity that meant something specific in the culture of American trucking. The chrome stacks, the pod headlights, the long hood that announced from a quarter-mile away exactly what kind of operator was behind the wheel. These things were not incidental to the 389's appeal. They were the core of it. And the 110,000 people who bought 389s over 17 years were not paying for a specification advantage. They were paying for membership in something that the Cascadia, with all of its genuine engineering excellence, was never designed to offer. The 589 is the continuation of that membership. And here is what that continuation is worth in financial terms, not sentimental terms, financial terms for the owner-operator who plans to sell. Peterbilt resale values hold at a premium over the Cascadia in the used truck market for a reason that goes beyond fuel economy and reliability. They hold at a premium because the community of Peterbilt buyers extends into the used market. A driver who wants to own a classic Peterbilt and cannot afford a new one does not look at a used Cascadia as an alternative. They are not the same product to that buyer. The Peterbilt commands a premium because the buyer paying that premium is not comparison shopping across brands. They are buying specifically what the Peterbilt offers, and nothing else satisfies the requirement. That buyer, the one who will pay more for a used 589 than they would pay for a comparable used Cascadia, regardless. Of the specification comparison between them is the reason the 589's resale premium over the Cascadia is consistent, documented, and worth building into every 5-year ownership model that evaluates this decision. Now let us talk about who should actually buy which truck. Because this is the part of the comparison that the financial analysis builds toward, and the part that is most valuable to the person writing the check. The Freightliner Cascadia is the right truck for a specific kind of operator, and the wrong truck for a different kind of operator. And the mistake that costs money is not knowing which kind you are before you sign. The fleet manager running 50 or 100 trucks optimized for lowest cost per mile on standardized routes, the Cascadia wins that operation. Lower purchase price compounding across the fleet. The DD15's universal service coverage minimizing downtime across all route profiles. Detroit Connect giving visibility across the entire operation from a single platform. The Cascadia was built for exactly that operational model, and it delivers exactly what that model requires with fewer compromises than any other truck in the market. The regional carrier whose drivers run irregular freight and whose route profile includes territory where the nearest Freightliner dealer is not. Guaranteed to be 50 miles closer than the nearest Peterbilt dealer, the Cascadia's service network advantage over the 589 with Cummins essentially disappears. And in that operator's model, the 589's premium interior, superior resale value, and fuel economy parity with the EP1 SPU package changes the total cost of ownership calculation in ways that the purchase price premium does not overcome. The owner-operator who is buying one truck, living in it, and selling it in 5 years, and whose professional identity includes having strong feelings about which truck they walk toward every morning, the 589 wins. Not because the Cascadia is a bad truck, it is not, but because the 589 was built specifically for that buyer in a way the Cascadia never tried to be and never will be. Now let me tell you what real operators who have priced both trucks against each other in 2026 say when they have completed the analysis and are being honest about what drove the decision. The Cascadia buyer says, "I ran the numbers 3 times. The 589 is a beautiful truck and I understand why people choose it, but I am running 12 trucks. The purchase price difference across 12 units is between $372,000 and $648,000. At that scale, the Peterbilt Premium is a capital allocation decision that requires justification I could not build from specification differences alone. The Cascadia's service network keeps my fleet moving. The DD15 is the engine my shops know completely. And my fuel economy numbers on the Cascadias I am already running are competitive enough that the EPIQ advantage does not close the financial gap at fleet scale. I bought Cascadias. I would buy Cascadias again." The 589 buyer says, "I sat in both trucks for 2 hours each. I ran the 5-year ownership model with honest numbers, EP, IQ, fuel economy, Cummins service coverage, resale premium on Peterbilts in my market, driver satisfaction impact on my one truck operation. The 589 was ahead on every 5-year number except purchase price, and the purchase price premium financed at current rates added $400 to $600 per month to my payment. That is the price of the truck I actually want to own, the truck I am proud to walk toward, the truck that will return more when I sell it. I bought the 589. I will not regret it. Both of those operators made the correct decision. The Cascadia buyer is right at fleet scale. The 589 buyer is right at owner-operator scale. The mistake is using one operator's correct decision as the framework for the other operator's different situation. Here is the final scorecard, the complete, honest picture. The Freightliner Cascadia wins on purchase price clearly, significantly, and at a scale that matters most for fleet buyers, where the gap compounds across every unit in the order. Wins on service network coverage with the DD15 across the full geographic map. Wins on integrated powertrain calibration, the DE15 and DT12, and Detroit axles, speaking the same language in ways that mixed component powertrains cannot replicate. Wins on parts availability and service cost in the near term. Wins on fleet-scale operational standardization and the management infrastructure that Detroit Connect provides. And wins on the lowest friction path for large purchasing decisions, where the cost of being wrong is multiplied across the entire fleet. The Peterbilt 589 wins on interior quality and the premium materials character that driver satisfaction surveys have documented consistently across the Peterbilt lineup. Wins on power sealing the MX-13 at 605 horsepower and 2,050 pound-feet of torque is the most powerful standard engine in this comparison. Wins on fuel economy with the EP1CQ package for operators whose routes allow the aerodynamic system to operate at its designed potential. Wins on engine flexibility, the Cummins X15 option gives maximum power with maximum service coverage. Wins on resale value premium driven by the depth and passion of the Peterbilt buyer community in the used truck market. Wins on classic exterior identity for the operator whose professional identity includes the truck they drive. And wins on the total cost of ownership calculation for the owner-operator running a 5-year cycle when the EPIQ fuel savings, Cummins service flexibility, and resale premium are correctly modeled against the purchase price gap. Choose the Freightliner Cascadia if you are a fleet buyer where purchase price compounds across multiple units. If service network universality across all possible route conditions is your primary operational risk management criterion, if your drivers and mechanics are standardized on the DD15 ecosystem, or if your ownership model is optimized for lowest near-term cost per mile above all other considerations. Choose the Peterbilt 589 if you are an owner-operator running a single truck on a 5-year ownership cycle, if your routes allow the EP1CQ fuel economy advantage to be fully realized, if the Cummins X15 option removes your service coverage concern, if premium driver experience translates into retention or personal satisfaction that belongs in your decision, and if the resale premium that Peterbilt commands in the used market is part of the financial model you are building before you buy. The most expensive mistake in this comparison is buying the Cascadia because the purchase price is lower without modeling what the 589 returns over 5 years when the EPIQ, the Cummins, and the resale premium are correctly included. The second most expensive mistake is buying the 589 at fleet scale without honestly calculating whether the per-unit premium justifies itself across the full fleet model at the volume you are purchasing. One of these trucks is the right answer for your operation. The expensive mistake is choosing the wrong one because you let the purchase price number end the analysis before the full financial picture was visible. Now you have the full picture. And the decision for the first time is yours to make with honest information instead of the incomplete version that both manufacturers have been handing you. If this channel is giving you the analysis that saves you real money on real decisions, subscribe. Because next week, we are going inside a number that is sitting inside every Class 8 truck purchase happening in North America right now, and that almost nobody is calculating before they sign. And when you see what that number actually is, you are going to look at the deal you were about to make very differently.